already distributing through App Center to the app stores. I mean the Play Store and the App Store for both Android and iOS. So every single time that we send a push to the master branches, we don't have to create the APKs and create the IPAs for a new version to be distributed to our users. Now, during this last lecture of this section, I want to show you exactly what we have built. With the help of App Center, we will be able to easily distribute new versions of our application. So let's say that we have implemented a brand new feature inside of our application, which I have already. Let me, of course, before pushing everything to a repo and showing you exactly how this would work, explain to you what exactly this new feature is. Basically, in the post page, I have added a new share toolbar item. And for this, of course, first I needed to create the view model, which I have referenced right here, and I will show you in just a second. I created the corresponding resource for that view model, and I have right here the toolbar item that doesn't have an icon, but it has a text of share, and the command is already binding to that view model and a specific property that I have created. This is pretty much everything that we change in the SAML file. In the C# file, however, in the constructors, we're also getting the view model. Of course, this is coming from the resources, but the important thing happens in the second override of the constructor, where we receive the item. In this case, we set the view model's selected post property to this item. And this means that if we navigate to the view model, we're actually going to find a property of type item. This view model is implementing the iNotify property changed, and this is calling the onProperty changed method when the selected post changes. This also has the command that I used in the SAML file. Finally, we see this share method that is going to call something from an interface using dependency services. So this is actually going to be quite similar to what we implemented in the previous application that we built. Basically, I created this iShare interface, of course in the shared project, which is going to have a similar method called show, except this one is only going to receive the title and the URL, no file location in this case. And then for the case of Android, I am using a method that again is quite similar to the one that we implemented earlier in another application. This has to inject the dependency, has to implement the iShare interface, and the method is simply going to put the text and the subject. And we're simply going to be starting the intent. This is an action send intent. And finally, for iOS, we see something quite similar, except in this case, we're actually only going to be sharing the URL, not the title. Basically, we are, as always, getting the visible view controller, using this view controller to present an activity controller. So that's pretty much it. Really, I don't want to focus on this new feature because we have implemented it before. What I want to focus is on what's going to happen next. By the way, let me go ahead and show you how this application works. So I have here the finance application on Android. And as always, we see this list of things that we're reading from and the blog. We can select any of this. We get navigated to the same screen that before. By the way, you may see that this is different. This is no longer a web view. I did have to change this, if you remember, but I think I haven't shown you this on Android. But anyway, I can share this, and notice that we're going to see every application that can share URLs. Of course, since this is the emulator, I don't really have anything installed, but we can copy these to the clipboard and maybe open Google Chrome and paste whatever is in my clipboard, see that this is the actual URL. And if I open this, I am going to be navigated to that blog post. And the same thing is going to happen on iOS. We're going to see the same application that I showed you in the previous lecture. We're going to see the same elements. We select one, and this time we see the share button. And we see pretty much the same thing that we saw on Android. Again, because I don't have any application installed, I can simply copy this to the clipboard and use Safari to take a look at what is in here. So I can paste it. I see that this is also some kind of URL. And if I open it, we're going to see the blog post. So very easy feature here. We have added something quite similar before. The thing is, again, that because we have implemented a new feature, we can post it first to our collaborators. So let's do that. I'm already actually in the developers branch right here in my project, which means that as I push new features, this is going to be done to my developers branch in the remote repository. If you remember, this branch is tracking the developers branch. So let's say that I have tested this application a little bit. I want to share it with collaborators. Maybe inside of the collaborators, there are internal testers to the company, maybe the quality assurance team or something like that. So I can right click, go to version control, select review and commit, see all of the changes that have been made since the last commit, and commit these changes. Let's say that this is new share feature, and push the changes to remote repository after commit. We're going to make sure that we are pushing to the developers branch in the origin remote repository and push the changes. Once the changes have been pushed, these would already be over on GitHub. So let's navigate over to GitHub and take a look. So I am here on GitHub, and indeed I see this message that says that I recently pushed to the developers branch less than a minute ago. So all I have to do is navigate over to the developers branch and see that indeed I have something that is called new share feature as the commit 2 minutes ago already. So this would mean that over on App Center, I can navigate over to the Android application first. Now, I want to show you that I did change something in here, because I was sending, at least in my case, new commits to the developers branch. I didn't really wanted this to be building every single time. In my case, at least, because I was pushing every time I finished a lecture. So, of course, you as a student can see what I did. So what I did in here was actually change to these to be built manually. That's why we don't see this building right now. But let me actually go ahead and build this branch with a new push, with a new commit. You can see that over here in the new commit, we see new share feature in the developers branch, unlike what we would see in the master branch, which is still a merge pull request number 1, and for testers is the number 4. So we don't see this new commit because this is not in those branches yet. So I just had to build this manually because I did change that. If you left it automatically, it will do it by itself. Once this is built, our testers, or in this case, our other developers, our collaborators, maybe the quality assurance team, will have this new version available. And let's say they have tested that the version is okay. Let's go ahead and push to the outside testers inside of our organization. So maybe a small amount of people that are helping us test this application a little bit more. In that case, we would create a new pull request. So here in GitHub, I have selected new pull request, and the base is going to be our testers branch. So that to which we want to share the new features. Compare it to the developers branch where we have this new feature. And you will be able to see all of the commits that have been made to the developers branch that are not yet in the testers branch, including the last one that we have just made, the new share feature. And we will see all of the changes that will be made. And we can, of course, write some comments about what is happening here. Usually, of course, your team will have some guidelines as to what you would want to send in here. Let me just write that this is the new share feature. And I will create the pull request. I will have to confirm, so I will merge the pull request and confirm the merge. And now, once this is merged, if I go to my code and I navigate over to the testers branch, I will also see the new share feature commit, which means that if I navigate back to App Center and I see the testers branch, now this is building automatically because I did set this to automatically build. As you can see, the trigger, unlike the developers branch, is on push, not manual. And by the way, you can see that the developers branch is already built. So again, this is going to be building. Once it is built, it will be available to our testers. And let's say there are testers. And by the way, this is happening exactly the same thing on iOS, where, by the way, I did forgot to manually build my branch, my developers branch. You can see that it was last built 3 days ago. The testers branch is building, but let me just go ahead and build this branch as well, because I also changed it to manual builds. But anyway, let me show you back on Android where we were, that let's say again that our testers have completed the testing of our application, that it is good to go, it is ready for the store. All we would have to do is navigate again back to GitHub, create a new pull request. This one, the base, is going to be master, and we're going to be comparing it to testers. So again, we will see all of the changes that will be made and create a pull request. See all of the commits and merge the pull request. And again, just like with the other branch, as soon as this is merged, we can go to our code and in the master branch see the new share feature commit. Which would mean that in App Center now, the master branch is going to be building once the testers branch is already built. And so, just like we saw, this is automatically going to be pushed to the stores. So this is what I wanted to show you this last lecture. How is it going to be working from Visual Studio to GitHub to App Center, so new versions of your applications are easily distributed to your users. All from those collaborators that are helping you inside of your organization test the application, to the testers that are normally outside of your organization helping you make the application better, to eventually, of course, the stores, so it is pushed to all of your users. All of this with the help of App Center, so literally with just one commit and a few clicks here and there, you can just focus on your application and not worry about creating the new features and sharing and everything with the APKs and IPAs, etc. So we are not done with App Center. Actually, in the next section, we're going to keep working with App Center, but working with something that we haven't done yet, which is to implement push notifications. And of course, there are many ways to implement push notifications, but since we are already very familiar with App Center, we're going to continue to use it.